I've got the spots, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
E3 Saxo Bank Classic is done and dusted, which means it's time for the Domestique headquarters home race, Gent-Wevelgem In Flanders Fields. Such a special race asks, of course, for a Domestique Cycling Podcast special. And joining today's conversation is one of the Domestique originals, Yves. Welcome, Yves.
Good evening.
It's just the two of us today.
Yeah, it's something else after the previous episodes with 3 or 4 men. But it will be as fun, I think.
Back to the roots.
Yes, indeed.
Yves, as the listeners might know already, you moved a couple of weeks ago. And guess what? Your new home is on the course of Sunday's race.
Yeah, it's quite funny to see. Like, I lived with my parents like 300 or 400 meters further from here. But like right now, it's just really the race passes the street right in front of my door. So it's quite nice to see. And the only thing that sucks is I can't park my car in the street, so I need to walk a little bit more tomorrow evening.
But it's for the love of cycling.
It's for the love of cycling. Let's hope it's not raining tomorrow evening.
With Gent-Wevelgem, dwars door Vlaanderen, Tour of Flanders, Scheldeprijs, Roubaix on the program the next 2 weeks. The schedule is really busy, to say the least. This is really the holy week we've all been looking forward to, isn't it?
This is why we cycling fans are living for. This is what we are living for. These are the races, certainly as Belgians, that are the hottest thing in the news, in the newspapers, on the television. Everybody is talking about it. Even the people who aren't the biggest fan of cycling just stay at home to watch the Tour of Flanders, to watch Paris-Roubaix. It's real something special in Belgium.
It's something you're looking forward to, but is your girlfriend looking forward to it as well? Or is that a kind of a problem at this point in the season?
At this point in the season is not really a problem. We're only still the end of March, the beginning of April. So no, I can still talk me around the fact that I need to stay at home every Sunday. But when it's starting to be August, September with the Vuelta, then I might get in trouble.
So the Grand Tours with 21 stages, 21 days in a row, that's a little more difficult then.
That's a little more difficult to explain, but we do our best.
Before we talk about Sunday's race, we should review the E3 Saxo Bank Classic of today. It's often called the small Tour of Flanders in Belgium, and you as the race expert, what can we conclude after today's race?
First of all, this race was phenomenal. The race started, I think, with 85k to go, with the Van der Poel attack. Wout Van Aert answered, and then I think Pogačar was a bit out of position at that point, but he was able to crawl his way back.
We're talking about Tayenberg attack of Van der Poel right now.
And I think from that moment on, it was racing in the purest form. The first part was with Nathan van Hooijdonk and Søren Kragh Andersen still in the group as Domestique for their two leaders.
Uh-huh.
But I think they got dropped on the Paterberg for the first time. They were able to come back, but then they were dropped on the Oude Kwaremont. And then it was for me personally, it was really stressful, because I really had no clue who would be the fastest at the line when they were sprinting with 3. At the moment that they attacked with 2k to go, then I already thought, oh right, Tadej doesn't really believe in his sprint, or his legs aren't that good anymore, or he just thinks he's not fast enough.
Was that a good choice to attack twice, being Tadej Pogačar?
I think it was, because even with those two attacks, the sprint we saw of him there wasn't a lot of power in it anymore. And I think without those two attacks, he wouldn't have a chance neither. So I think it was the only thing he could do. And yeah, you can always gamble and try and attack. And if Van Aert and Van der Poel just doubt 5 seconds or 10 seconds, then he's gone. So I think it was do or die for Pogačar.
Let's get back to Eau de Quaremont. In the past few years, we're like 25, 26 years old now. We've seen fast ascents of Eau de Quaremont, but have you ever seen someone attack before the cobbles?
No, but those three guys are so special. They attack even on points where you know they will attack. They even attack 100 or 200 meters earlier. So it's like the attack already starts before the cobbles. And then it's like, yeah, all right. We know the Eau de Quaremont is already quite a long climb. And Pogačar is even making it longer. Okay, but it's phenomenal to see. And it was quite funny to hear, I think. Van Hooijdonk was at the front of that group. And Søren Kragh Andersen came over him. And Van Hooijdonk thought Kragh Andersen would attack. But then just Pogačar and Van der Poel shot up in his inside, and it was like, oh, okay. And he will, phenomenal, really special.
So Tadej Pogačar attacking before the cobbles, the guy is really a monster. He accelerates like, I think, 3 times on Eau de Quaremont. Wout Van Aert, he was dropped before we're halfway the climb. Then Pogačar sees it, accelerates once again, Van Aert gets back, then he does it another time. You're never done with that kid.
No, it's like those three guys are just, they have a weak moment, like a couple of seconds, but then if they have 5 or 10 seconds rest, they are back. And you saw Pogačar attacking on the steeper part of the Eau de Quaremont. Then he was looking at Van der Poel and asked if he could take over. So they were doubting. There were like 3 or 4 seconds where there was some doubt about, are we going to go at this speed till the top or not?
And Wout Van Aert was dropped. But the fact that Van der Poel, he didn't take turns when Pogačar asked to, that means the guy was having a hard time either.
Yeah. So, and then Pogačar just said, yeah, if you don't do it, I will do it again. And then we had the unfortunate incident with the moto.
Oh man, were you as annoyed as I was by those motorbikes today?
Yes, I was annoyed with the motorbikes, but I was annoyed with the reactions on social media as well, saying Wout Van Aert won today because of that motorbike.
Yeah, I don't think that's true actually, because now I've seen footage of that motorbike crash, which was really hard. He hit some guys in the public, but Van Aert wasn't like completely dropped at that point, and the climb was almost over.
Yeah, it was pretty much over. So I'm quite annoyed by everything we see on social media saying Van Aert shouldn't have been in that front group anymore, but he was like 1 bike length behind the back wheel of Van der Poel, so it's not like he was dropped completely. And like you mentioned, it was already at the top of Eau de Quaremont, so if they would hesitate 5 seconds there, Van Aert would be back as well. So.
Exactly, but nevertheless, we can conclude that Wout van Aert was the weakest of the 3 on the uphill sections, and yeah, as far as I know, that's going to be a problem for next week for Tour of Flanders, I think.
Yeah, Van Aert won today, but I think he will have some doubts about next Sunday with the Tour of Flanders, because he really had a hard time on the climbs, on the cobbled climbs, and in the Tour of Flanders it's even harder. Like now it was Paterberg, Eau de Quaremont, but in the Ronde van Vlaanderen it's the other way around.
And after Eau de Quaremont, you only have Karnemel, Beekstraat and Tigamberg left, which are the hardest of climbs. while in Tour of Flanders, everything will be decided on Oude Quaremont and the final Paterberg with 13
Yeah,
kilometers to go, where the riders will be forced to ride on the cobbles because there will be barriers. So in the
yeah.
gutter.
I think today you can say Van Aert was lucky, but the race was perfect for Van Aert that after Oude Quaremont there weren't really any major difficulties left till the finish. I think if there would be another Paterberg ascent or another Oude Quaremont ascent, for example, in the remaining of the stage, that he would be dropped permanently. But he deserved to win today. He was the strongest in the sprint, so
I agree with you, but still, the fact that he was almost dropped on Oude Quaremont and then still managed to recover for that final sprint, that recovery is going incredibly fast, isn't it?
yeah, he's recovering very fast. But I think they're recovering all three quite fast. Um, and I think Van Aert learned a lot of lessons out of the sprints he lost against the Ronde van Vlaanderen in 2020 and the Worlds in Hogerheide in January this year, where he waited too long for his sprint. Now he knew there was tailwind, so he started his sprint with 250 meters to go. And at that point, you see his top speed is higher than the top speed that Van der Poel has.
Mhm.
And I think he will be happy he wins a head-to-head sprint against Van der Poel.
Exactly. Imagine if he lost that one once again.
Yeah.
That would have been a nightmare.
I think we saw the media the last week saying Van Aert needs to win for his mental game and to be ready for the Ronde van Vlaanderen and Paris-Roubaix. I didn't agree till that final sprint. At that moment, I thought Van Aert needs to win the sprint head-to-head to Van der Poel. Otherwise, I think mentally it would be a small blow as well, losing another sprint against Van der Poel. What do you think?
Yeah, and every sprint he loses to Van der Poel in a head-to-head is kind of a nightmare, I think, because everyone in the past always said that Van Aert was a better sprinter of the two. But then he lost Tour of Flanders, then he lost the World Championships cyclocross in two similar ways by making the same mistake. And that's what he didn't do today. He showed that he learned from it, which is a good thing. But still, when there comes a new sprint, a new head-to-head sprint, I don't think they will be leveled again. It's not that Van Aert has an advantage now. It's not that
No.
Van der Poel holds an advantage. No, it's 0-0. Start again.
It's like every time they will go to the finish line, even with Pogačar, you never know for sure who's gonna win the sprint. At one time, Pogačar can win that sprint as well. I'm
exactly.
sure of that. Pogačar can win a sprint against those two as well. Certainly after the Tour of Flanders, a very hard Tour of Flanders. I think Pogačar is now going back to Monaco as he scratched Dwars de Vlaanderen of his schedule.
Yep.
To be fully ready for the Ronde van Vlaanderen. So I think Pogačar will be very strong in the Ronde van Vlaanderen.
The Tour of Flanders preview is for next week, I think,
Yeah,
Monday or
I
Tuesday.
I know.
Today is a Gent-Wevelgem special, so let's head towards Ypres. As I've already mentioned, it's our hometown, and how special is Gent-Wevelgem for you as someone who lives in Ypres?
I think it's quite special. It's something when we were a child, it was like we're going with our little bike to the big street to watch the peloton pass and try to grab a water bottle. And then when we had a water bottle, it was like, yay, look at that, I have one. And then it went into the closet and it never came out again, or at least in my closet.
You don't want to see mine.
But yeah, it's phenomenal to see, and every time they pass the big market square in Ypres, it's something special. Even on television, it's really beautiful to see the Meningate and all the other things. It's nice to see that the riders are riding on the roads that we are riding on and suffering on, and they
Is
make it look so easy.
is that Market Square and that Meningate and all those war memorials? Is it something you're getting used to by living in Ypres, or because a lot of tourists they say yeah, it's incredibly nice, it's incredibly impressive to see, but when you live in Ypres, you might get used to it. You see it another way.
I think one way or the other you get sometimes used to it that if you need to ride through the Meningate every night, but at the moment that you realize you're riding through the Meningate and you look back at all those names and the nationalities on that, then you think, damn, this is beautiful. This means something. Yeah, I can't really explain, but it remains very special. Even now, I'm almost 25 years old, and when you see it on television, one way or the other, you're proud that you live in such city that remembered the war in such nice way and such beautiful way.
Gent-Wevelgem in Flanders Fields is the full name of Sunday's race, pointing at the history, which plays an important role. Um, does that factor play an important role in the race?
I think the race organization um, wants it to be very special because it is in the name as well, in Flanders Fields. Um, but to be honest, I don't know if the normal spectator um, really thinks about that. I don't know.
I do think so, because for example, the start is given under the Meningate.
Yeah.
There is a moment of silence. Um, there is some special music there. All the cemeteries along the way. It's something you don't see when you look at another race.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I think the ceremony, the scenery at the start is really special. And when the coverage starts on television, you always see what happened before. So we always see some sneak peeks about the start ceremony and such. So yeah, that's true. And I think, yeah, people realize it that it's in Flanders Fields, certainly.
All right. That's enough love for our hometown town, I guess. Um, to stay within history, you're going to talk about one famous edition of Gent-Wevelgem, um, the edition of 2015, sorry. Um, please tell us the story.
Well, in the morning of that day, I think we can all say it was quite windy. Let's say very windy. And then I think that race completely exploded right from the gun. The riders really had to lay within the wind to even stay on the roads, and even at that point, it was impossible to stay on the roads. I'm referring to a certain very young Welshman at that point, Geraint Thomas, who just took a dive in the ditch, but was able to come back to the front of the race.
Same happened to Gert Steegmans,
Yeah,
a really
yeah,
a big boy. He
yeah.
was blown into the river across the road. So that
But that was so crazy to see. It's like you understand that with for example, an Nairo Quintana who's only 55 or less kilograms. If you see him being blown off the road, then you say,
Gert Steegmans, what was he like?
yeah,
80,
but he's
85 kilos?
85 kilos, and if you see him going in the ditch in the water, then all right, this wind is very heavy. It was like 85 kilometers an hour at that point, and yeah, that race was extremely hard. There were echelons, but they were trying to ride echelons. It was like I'm
Something
riding
happened.
here, and then it was, oh, okay, we don't know what to do, and then an unfortunate puncture for Mark Cavendish, who took him out really early, and you saw him trying to crawl back, um, yeah, trying to find coverage from the cars, but then it was like, yeah, waiting if the car would accelerate towards the back of the bunch or budge. One sort of
What was
weird
left of the bunch?
a weird echelon with riders, yeah,
So,
all over the place. It was heroic to see,
total mayhem.
and it was quite funny to see if you fall out of the echelon, then the speed is insanely low from those riders. It was like they were riding 25 kilometers an hour. It was like, yeah, they were completely standstill. But yeah, then I think I can say the magic happens with a very early attack from Jurgen Roelands, I think with 80k to go or
I think
90k to
it
go.
was even more. I'd say 100.
He had a gap of 2 minutes at a certain point, and he was able to keep that gap a very long time, till
And
the last 15k, I think.
and until today, he says he had the best legs of his whole career that day.
If he spends his energy he had that day in a different time in that race, he's winning it with 2 minutes in front of the rest. The legs he had, the way he battled the wind all on his own, solo, when the groups behind him are splashing into pieces. There were six chasers left at the end, and the peloton behind that just says, "Sorry for the word, fuck that. Not riding anymore here." And it's done. You see Sahan at the front of the peloton just freewheeling 7 minutes behind Roelands. So it was Roelands against the six chasers, and it was, yeah, I think he cracked when he went into Ypres, the last passage through Ypres, when he went through the Lille gate. You saw him for the first time cramping up, and then the remaining of the course through Menen. It's quite nasty. It's not really uphill, but it's a 1-2% drag.
Falls flat
Yeah,
all the time.
falls flat all the time, and then you saw him crack within the group behind Steen van den Berg and Niki Terpstra. Those were the only two from the same team. Sepp van Marken was already in the game as well at that point.
Must have been a young Sepp van Marken, isn't it? Or what was he like, 25, 26?
He's now...
Was he riding for Sport Vlaanderen or?
No, he was riding for Team Jumbo NL.
Right, yeah.
He's now 34, so you can do the math.
26 back at that time.
And Jens de Buschler, the Belgian champion. But yeah, then it was man against man. I think Terpstra punctured, but he got back. But he played a very sneaky game, and he stayed a little bit between the cars to give the illusion that he had difficulties to come back. But then he did a slingshot from the back to the front. It didn't work. Then Van den Berg attacked as well, but he had a small mechanical as well, so he was dropped as well. We heard them say not so very kind words when that happened, but then it was fixed magically, and he came back into the front group. But I think the smartest and coolest guy of that group was Luca Paolini, who was really the old fox that time. I think he was 38, and he spent his energy at the right moment. And I think Ethics Quickstep, was it called back then, made the tactical error by not jumping on that wheel immediately.
So a late attack of Paolini led him towards victory.
Yeah, and then the chasing group syndrome happened, that no one wants to ride for the other. But yeah.
Do you know how many riders finished that day? Because I know. Can you make a guess?
Not a lot. Um, yeah, less than 50, I think.
39, I guess. And that day was the
39.
first World Tour race of Oliver Naasten.
The first World Tour race of Oliver Naasten.
Yeah, and he
Oh.
said back at the time he thought it would be his last as well.
He finished in the bunch,
Yeah, I think he was 34th or something.
32nd.
32nd. All right. Those hard circumstances won't be there this Sunday, I think. At the beginning of the week, there was predicted a lot of wind and a lot of rain, but somehow it got a little less now.
Yeah, it will still rain. I looked at the weather reports for Sunday, but it will not be the huge amounts anymore that were predicted earlier this week. But it will be a cloudy day. It will be a wet day. The roads will be wet, most likely. It will be quite cold as well. I think 8 degrees. So 8 degrees plus a little bit of wet clothes and rain. The riders will suffer.
Will there be enough wind in the Moeren to create some echelons?
I'm not sure, but there is always an attempt in the Moeren to try and create an echelon because it's really tempting. It's a lot of free space around there, so the wind can just blow very freely. So I think they might try it, but I don't know if there will be enough. I think around 12 or 1 o'clock the wind turns. I think it starts with a southern wind, but then it's go to north or vice versa. I don't know anymore. I looked it up, but I forgot.
Do you think Sunday's race will be one for sprinters or one for attackers?
I don't think Gent-Wevelgem is a race for sprinters anymore. It might have been a couple of years ago, but I think there are teams who don't want it to end in a sprint, although a lot of teams are bringing a sprinter. But if you see the dynamics of the peloton these last couple of races, there are a lot of attacking-minded guys in the bunch, and the big question will be once again, how will Jumbo Visma play it out on Sunday?
Last year, Jumbo started with Wout Van Aert as well, but then 4 riders got away in the hilly zone, being Binyam Girmay, Dries van Gestel, Jasper Stuyven, and Christophe Laporte. Is that something you think will happen once again, that Jumbo is going to send out a satellite rider?
I'm not
Or
so
do you
sure.
think that Van Aert will be really hungry to get 2-on-2?
I don't think Van Aert will be, if he has the chance to win, certainly he will give it a shot, but I think he thinks, all right, I have won E3. The Ronde van Vlaanderen is coming the Sunday after that. So I think he can play out his team once again, and it needs to be a sprinter within that group, because last year I thought Christophe Laporte would have won that sprint. To be honest, he was able to save his legs a little bit because he was playing the game from the group behind him as well, if I recall correctly. But yeah, I don't know who they're sending. They had a lot of bad luck today as well. I think Benoot abandoned, Van Baarle abandoned.
Yeah, Benoot punctured
Uh,
right after Taaienberg, I think.
And I think Van Baarle crashed on the Stationsberg.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much the damage will be within the team, and if they are bringing the same team as they brought to E3. I have no clue.
Do you think there are some teams that will be able to compete Jumbo-Visma with multiple riders?
With multiple riders, before today I would have said Soudal Quickstep, but today they were nowhere.
It
I'm
was
sorry to
terrible
say.
once again. Like Asgreen was there, Alaphilippe was there, We said after Omloop that was one of our conclusions. Without the best Alaphilippe or the best Asgreen, Soudal Quickstep will be nowhere. And I think we were right back at the time.
Yeah, I think it will be Jumbo-Visma against Alpecin the winning once again.
Alpecin with Jasper Philipsen was really impressive last Wednesday in Brugge de Panne Classic, where everyone thought he would just sprint, but nope. Philipsen himself attacked with, I don't know how many kilometers to go, but it was a huge amount.
Yeah, he did a lot of efforts to create that final group that went to the line. But besides Jasper Philipsen, there is Søren Kragh Andersen as well, who's shown in Milan-San Remo his exceptional form, and today in the E3, once again, a very good job for Mathieu.
Exactly, a lot of work.
But besides Alpecin and Jumbo, Soudal Quickstep is taking Merlier with them, so they're going all out for the sprint, because I don't think that's the only way they will be able to win. Because Merlier has shown he has fast legs this season. The defending champion Girmay, I have my doubts. I don't think he's at the level from last year. Besides that, Sam Bennett,
Mats Pedersen, rainy
possible,
circumstances.
Together with Stuyven again, they can play the attacking team a bit as well. Not really waiting on the group sprint. It's gonna be a nice race. There are a lot of big sprinters coming, like Merlier, Philipsen, Van Aert. Cavendish is going there, by the way. He was in E3 as well. Very strange sight to see.
I have the feeling Astana really forces him to ride those classics because they don't have any other riders. I don't know what's the problem.
I don't understand why Cavendish is riding the E3 on Friday when he has more chance in Gent-Wevelgem on Sunday. It will be hard as well. But at that moment, he needs to be as fresh as possible to have a chance at Gent-Wevelgem. But right now, he will. I don't know if he finished today. I guess he didn't. But his legs will. No, he didn't finish today, and he didn't finish Classic Brugge de Panne either. So yeah.
All right,
be an interesting race.
To conclude the men's race, because we need to talk about the women as well. One name. Who's going to win it on Sunday?
Shari will say it.
Yeah, no, I was talking about the men's race. Don't be that fast.
Jasper Phillips. Yes, it's mainstream.
Yeah, it was. I was going to pick him too.
Oh, I think we forgot it. Arnaud Delis. What can we expect from him?
Yeah, I think big things. Gent-Wevelgem is a race that should suit him. Although I said I think before the season he wouldn't win it, but he will have some fresh legs on Sunday. Yeah, I expect him to be there.
I just went through the start list, and the amount of big sprinters, good sprinters that are starting there is incredible. Delis, Groenewegen, Gaviria as well, Demage. Tough. I don't know how the dynamic of the race will be looking at that start list, but let's hope on an attacking race. We don't want Gent-Wevelgem to end in a bunch sprint.
You kind of ruined my build-up towards the women's race. But yeah, Shari Bossait, you've been talking about her for weeks now, that Gent-Wevelgem is her race, her eyes on it. She's targeting the race. She'll end up on the podium. And guess what? Last Wednesday, she was in the first echelon in Brugge, Thursday, in Brugge de Panne Classic. 5th place for her. She lost to Balsamo, Wiebes, Georgie, and a name I forgot, but the legs seem to be good.
She's ready. She's ready to compete with the best in Gent-Wevelgem. Yes, I know to win that race will be very hard.
Yeah, but that's what you said. She's going to win it. So please explain us, how is Shari going to win it?
She's gonna win a sprint head-to-head against Lotte Kopeck.
And Lorena Wiebes will be dropped?
Yes, on the Camelberg. Puncture on a very bad time.
Oh, bad luck involved.
No, it's I don't know in which scenario she can win, but at the start of Classic Brugge de Panne, she mentioned as well that she wouldn't sprint for the victory, but with the echelon action that day, she was in the front group. She didn't really have a sprint anymore at the end, but her legs are very good, and she will play a major role in Gent-Wevelgem.
There will be a lot of hot takes of ours on the table this Sunday. You said Shari is going to win, and when she wins, you'll buy us free beers, you said. I said that Lotto Kopecky she would win multiple races. So
Yes, she only won one.
it will be a head-to-head, I guess, on Sunday.
No, you need to you betray Shari Bossaid, how dare you?
All right. Yves, how will you experience the race on Sunday? What are the plans?
We're doing a few stops on the road, starting with the presentation at the Market Square in Ypres. Then we're doing some small places around Ypres. We're not going to the hilly zone, or it's not really decided yet, as the weather doesn't look that nice to be on top of the Camelberg and just wait to see the riders. So most likely we'll ride around with the car and stop on certain places, and when the coverage starts on television around 2:30 or 3 o'clock, I think we will go watch it on television.
All
And
right.
then if Shari Bossuits wins, I'm not going home before I
I'll
was
come and
able.
find you. I'll come and find you when that happens.
Come and find me. Come and find me. There will be some beers, and I hope they will be cold.
All right. I wish you all the best. Thanks for joining me today in this Gent-Wevelgem special. The next episodes will be at the beginning of next week, I think. That will be with you and Bram once again.
Yes.
Reviewing Gent-Wevelgem and previewing, I guess, Dwars of Vlaanderen and Tour of Flanders.
Yeah.
All
The
right.
biggest race of the classic season is coming up.
Exactly. See you next
Thank
time.
you. See you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
I've got the spots, the sickness. There's be twins in my brain.